This haunting photo shows the eager young Spitfire pilots of 74 Tiger Squadron just hours before they were sent to cover the Dunkirk evacuation. A baptism of fire that delivered tragedy, a daring escape, and intense air-to-air combat. What's more, some of them had cameras fitted to their Spitfires and recorded some of the most dramatic camera gun footage of World War II. The wing leader team looked into the full story of the Tigers over Dunkirk. On the 20th of May 1940, just 10 days after the invasion of France, the German forces reached the Channel coast at the Somme estuary and effectively cut off up to 1 million Allied soldiers in northern France. The C-in-C of RAF Fighter Command, Air Vice Marshal Dowding, immediately pulled any remaining Fighter Command Hurricanes out of France and tasked the OC of 11 Group Air Vice Marshal Park to provide air cover for the retreating troops from airfields on the south coast of England. 74 was one of the many RAF squadrons tasked with patrolling the skies over the Dunkirk area as the Allied forces slowly made their way towards what would be their only point of evacuation a week later. Unlike during the Battle of Britain, the RAF patrols over the French coast had little to no guidance from the control rooms as they were on the very limit of their radio's range when over France. Around 7 in the evening, A Flight were vectored towards Plot X-14 and told to proceed on that course for 10 minutes, and if they didn't find anything, they were to return to base. Luckily, X-14 turned out to be a bunch of Heinkels and Junkers 88s at various heights and locations over the coast, and A Flight soon found 2 Heinkels of 1 KGR 126 cruising just above cloud. A Flight Commander Sailor Milan took Red Section to attack the starboard Heinkel, whilst Yellow Section engaged the port Heinkel. This incredible footage was taken by Sailor Milan during the attack and shows the starboard Heinkel being hit at close range and the undercarriage dropping, which was a common occurrence when a Heinkel's hydraulic lines were damaged. Both Heinkels were lost without trace. The 74th Squadron pilots then spotted more enemy bombers and proceeded to engage them, claiming a total of 6 bombers either destroyed or damaged. But it came at a price. Red 3, Bertie Aubert, got lost and force-landed out of petrol at Berck. Luckily, he managed to hitch a lift aboard a Blenheim 2 days later and was back on patrol by the 24th of May. Sadly, this piece of luck proved to be fatal. Other squadrons flew patrols on this day, but 74 were not called upon. Meanwhile, the Germans were advancing rapidly, taking Berck where Bertie Aubert's Spitfire lay and getting to the outskirts of Boulogne by nightfall. At 05:30 hours, the Tigers set out to patrol the French coast near Calais. They soon came across a Henschel 126 reconnaissance aircraft, an easy target for a bunch of Spitfires. But this sitting duck had a sting in its tail, and although the Henschel was shot down, its rear gunner managed to hit squadron leader Laurie White's Spitfire, forcing him to land immediately at the nearest safe airfield, which was Calais Mark. This photo shows his damaged Spitfire just after his emergency landing. To make matters worse, the leader of Yellow Section, Vincent Byrne, was hit by anti-aircraft fire further inland and was taken prisoner. It had not been a good start to the day for the Tigers, and a plan was hatched to go and rescue their CO from Calais Mark. Despite no shortage of volunteers from 74, the rescue mission was allocated to 54 Squadron, and these 3 pilots. Johnny Allen and Al Deere would fly the Spitfire escort, and Prof. Leithart would fly a 2-seat Miles Master to collect squadron leader White. After an uneventful outbound journey, the Master was seen to take off from Calais, only to be instantly attacked by Me-109s. Deere and Allen then engaged and fought a fierce running battle with several 109s, whilst Leithart quickly landed again and watched the battle with squadron leader White from the safety of a slit trench. When the coast was clear, Leithart and White made it safely back home. The Tigers were up early again on the 24th of May when 4 Spitfires of Blue Section shot down another Henschel 126 near Calais. This footage was taken by Blue leader Paddy Treacy and shows the Henschel desperately trying to outmaneuver the Spitfires. It didn't succeed and crashed near Ordruick. Blue 4, Sammy Hoare, was hit during this combat and, like his CO the day before, was forced to land at Calais Mark. Only this time, with German forces surrounding the airfield, a rescue attempt was not possible. Later that morning, 10 Spitfires of 74 were on patrol when they came across a lone Dornier 17. Sailor Milan's footage shows the enemy aircraft diving towards cloud at a speed similar to that of the Spitfires. It then cuts to later in the combat, when a Spitfire makes a beam attack, just before the enemy aircraft force lands in a cloud of dust and smoke, crossing a ditch and apparently ploughing through a herd of cows. Paddy Treacy's film, taken midway through the chase, is one of the most famous pieces of combat footage of World War II.
Now, before some of you start throwing things at your screen, yes, we know that their Dornier 17 was actually, of course, an ME-110. But here's the interesting thing. Nobody has ever identified this ME-110. It's one of the most famous bits of combat footage of World War II. And the more we looked into it, the more we realised why. Every 74 Squadron pilot that took part in this combat identified the enemy aircraft as the Dornier 17. So were they talking about a separate Dornier 17 that wasn't caught on camera? Well, reading through all the combat reports, some of them mentioned 2 objects dropping from the wings of the Dornier at the beginning of the chase, and this is clearly visible in the film here. Paddy Treacy states that he took over the attack below cloud, and the starboard engine was already smoking when he hit the port engine, again clearly visible in the film. Other pilots then described the aircraft force landing in a field and 2 crew climbing out. And of course, the opening slates of both films described the target as a Dornier 17. So we can be sure that all of their combat reports relate to these films, which means we're looking for an ME-110 that force landed near Calais and both crew survived. A search through the Battle of France then and now reveals that 5 ME-110s crashed that day. But we can rule 4 of them out straight away as their crash location is too far away from Calais. This leaves only one, a reconnaissance ME-110 flown by Lieutenant Werner Kantz. Unfortunately, the book says that this was possibly the one claimed by a Defiant crew at 1:05 p.m, which is 2 hours after our combat. So I spoke to wing leader historian Simon Parry, and he pointed out that the times were hardly ever recorded in the German records. So therefore, the author of this book must have got the time of the combat from the Defiant crew's combat report. But of course, that leads to the question, why did the author connect this Defiant claim to that 110? Well, the answer is simple. As not one of the 74 Squadron pilots mentioned shooting down an ME-110, then the only RAF claim for a 110 that fitted was the one made by the Defiant crew. And what's more, this footage of Kantz's ME-110 clearly shows him jettisoning 2 long-range drop tanks at the beginning of the attack, suggesting that it's a D version. Up until today, there is no record of drop tanks being carried by 110s over France during this period. This aircraft must have been a brand new experimental type being trialled by the reconnaissance unit. A rare aircraft indeed.
Paddy Treacy, meanwhile, had picked out another juicy target, this time a Junkers 88 near Dunkirk. Again, his camera gun recorded the action.
I closed in on the Junkers 88 and opened fire. Port engine stopped and lower gun position fell off and some crew took to parachute.
From Luftwaffe records, it appears that this was L1IS of 8 LG1, shot down south of Ostend. 2 of the crew became prisoners of war. 3 hours later, the Tigers were back in the air again, but this time the tables were turned. The squadron was bounced by 109s over the coast. Tony Mould and Paddy Treacy were forced to bail out but managed to return by ship in the following days. Sadly, Bertie Aubert, who had just escaped back to the UK, was shot down and killed. The squadron was shaken, and it would be 3 days before they saw action again, when they claimed 6 109s in a morning combat, including this one, filmed by Johnny Freeborn. Later that afternoon, the squadron claimed 5 Dornier 17s, but Paddy Treacy was once again shot down behind German lines. Remarkably, he evaded capture once again and returned to the UK via Spain in early 1941. With that, the remnants of 74 Squadron were withdrawn to the north of England to regroup and recover. Their valiant defence of the men at Dunkirk was over. So, what became of the young men in the photo?